So welcome back to the church history study. Who would like to open us up in prayer today?
Bienvenidos al estudio de la iglesia. ¿Quién quiere empezar con la oración?
Father God, we just thank you that we can gather here together. Thank you for this very, very special time, this Christmas period, that we can just focus on you and just be really, really in mind and in tune with all that you came to do, Lord. I thank you for the sacrifice that you made, and just pray that during this study we can draw closer to you. I thank you for your anointing over Archel and Kristen. Thank you for this academy that we can hold the class in, Lord. And we just pray your blessing and favour over all of us and those who haven't been able to attend this evening. As we draw close to this year, we just want to be reminded of the things that you have done in our lives this year and be really excited and hopeful for all that's to come next year. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. So the last 2 weeks we've been studying how the church has been facing a lot of pressure from Rome on the outside.
Las últimas 2 semanas lo hemos estado estudiando como que la iglesia ha tenido mucha presión por medio de Roma.
But there were also pressures from within.
Pero había presión también internamente de la iglesia.
So the church was facing a crisis.
Entonces la iglesia ya estaba en una crisis.
So, because certain groups of so-called Christians were putting the whole church in jeopardy.
Porque grupos de cristianos, diferentes sectas que han dicho cristianos, que ellos estaban poniendo la iglesia en peligro.
And this week we're going to study the main group who were causing the most problems within the church.
Entonces esta semana vamos a estudiar ese grupo principal que estaba teniendo todos los problemas de la iglesia.
Who remembers which group John was battling in the letter of Revelation to the 7 churches?
¿Alguien recuerda cuando estuvimos estudiando Apocalipsis que había un grupo que era una secta que el apóstol Juan estaba afrontándose?
What did we
¿Cómo
call
se
them?
llamaba el grupo en esa época de Apocalipsis?
Around 90 AD.
We studied it a lot.
I can't remember the name of the group, but it was the one who didn't believe that Jesus was as man form.
Uh-huh. And what do we say that those groups of believers, what do we call them?
Que era
Close, not Gnostics, but before Gnosticism.
Jesús era en cuerpo, que tenía un cuerpo.
You're talking about their Jewish sect name?
Proto-Gnostic.
Gnósticos, la palabra es los gnósticos, pero antes de los gnósticos era proto-gnóstico.
So it's the same group that John is battling in 1st and 2nd John, in his letter to 1st and 2nd John.
Esa secta era la secta que Juan estaba afrontándose en la carta, el primero de Juan y el segundo de Juan.
So in the first century, at the end of the first century, we have these proto-Gnostic Christians that are influencing the church with these ideas of Gnosticism.
Entonces, por el final del primer siglo de la iglesia, hay proto-gnósticos que están influyendo la gente de la iglesia con esas ideas gnósticas.
But by the start of the 2nd century, we have full-blown Gnosticism.
Pero ya empezando con el segundo siglo, ya está completamente explotando esa idea de gnosticismo.
And today we're going to be discussing Gnosticism, the main enemy of the truth.
Entonces hoy vamos a estudiar los gnósticos para que nosotros podríamos ver lo que estaba afrontando en el segundo siglo la gente de la iglesia.
Just for further clarification, proto-Gnostics is just what you called it during...
Before they were formed.
Before they was
Okay.
complete.
Mm-hmm. But then they developed into Gnostics.
Entonces la idea de proto es como en el principio de la
So
idea.
Gnosticism went to Gnosticism.
Proto-Gnosticism became Gnosticism. So they were
Proto-gnósticos empezaron como la idea de gnosticismo, pero ya empezó cuando ya el segundo siglo gnósticos.
So who remembers what Gnosticism, the word Gnostics, comes from?
¿Alguien recuerda qué significa la palabra gnóstico? Viene de una palabra en griega.
Yes, it means, it comes, okay, so Gnosticism comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means knowledge.
Que viene de la palabra en griego gnosis, que significa conocimiento.
So Gnostics then means from knowledge.
Entonces, los gnósticos es de que viene de conocimiento.
Or salvation comes from knowledge.
O también decir que la salvación viene por conocimiento.
So no one knows the roots of Gnosticism for sure. It's still a mystery. This is still new stuff that's being discovered.
Todavía no entendemos las raíces de gnosticismo porque todavía están encontrándose diferentes cartas de ellos y libros de ellos.
Some experts try to say it started in Judaism and branched over into Christianity.
Hay expertos que dicen que empezó en el judaísmo y ya influyó el cristianismo.
But to this day, there is no evidence that Gnosticism was started from outside of Christianity. It all shows that it started from within the church.
Entonces, hasta el día de hoy, casi toda la gente se cree que empezó en la iglesia primitiva cristiana.
It's a very clever satanic trick.
Yes.
It's got it written all over us.
Yes.
Satan all over it.
Well, that's what Jesus calls it in Revelation. Yeah, he called them something of Satan. I can't remember the exact phrasing.
En Apocalipsis habla de la gente gnóstico que eran gente de Satanás.
Remember, they were
Es
called
una
the
secta.
Nicolaitans, or the Nicolaitan, or I forget how to say the
Era
Nicolaitans.
Nicolaitans.
This was a proto-Gnostic group.
Nicolaitina era en español.
And so, but it's most likely that the Gnostic Christians were influenced in Alexandria, Egypt.
Pero dicen que probablemente se fueron influidos los cristianos por gnósticos en Alejandría.
What was happening in Alexandria, and why would this mystical new group might be forming here?
¿Qué estaba pasando allí? Porque es más probable que ese grupo, esa secta que es mística, se formaba allí.
Well, I think it was the hub of everything going on, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Busy.
It was the hub of knowledge.
Que era como donde toda la gente que eran enseñadores y de filosofía estaban ahí en esa ciudad.
Everybody was rubbing shoulders with one another, and all these ideas were blending and mixing together. And that's what Gnosticism is. It is a blend of all these ideas mixed together within Christianity.
Entonces, en ese tiempo en Alejandría estaba mucha gente que con mucho conocimiento, hablando mucho, enseñando mucho. Entonces, gnóstico es básicamente una mezcla de ideas de filosofía.
I already said this, but who was the first main person to battle Gnosticism head on?
Entonces, acabo de decir eso, pero ¿quién era el primer apóstol que se afrontó con los gnósticos?
Who was it?
Como una batalla contra de ellos.
Nope.
Said John.
John.
El apóstol Juan.
So
Como en
Paul
Apocalipsis.
battled the Judaizers. John was the first, because John was alive at the end of the first century. He was the first one to majorly battle these Gnostics.
Pablo estaba afrontándose con los judaizantes, que eran gente de judaísmo, pero Juan era persona que todavía estaba vivo en esa época y estaba afrontándose con las ideas gnósticas.
And so it shouldn't surprise us that within 100 years, it is John's disciples who eventually defeats the Gnostics.
Entonces no nos sorprende que eran los discípulos de Juan que se ha vencido de esa idea de los gnósticos.
But we're going to talk about that much later.
And there's quite a lot of
Eso
warnings
va
in the
por
Bible
adelante.
about this is going to happen. I
Mhm.
can remember at least 3 or 4 that they'll come among you, wolves, and
Right.
sheep's clothing.
Right.
All of those things, because it was the end of the people who knew Jesus. So
Right.
this was the major tsunami attack at the end of, they're all dead. Let's go.
What's at risk? What is at risk the most? If
¿Qué
these
es el
false
que-
ideas come into the church, what's at risk?
¿Qué es el riesgo de esas ideas falsas entrando en la iglesia
true,
primitiva?
the true gospel.
And so then what's at risk? Then if the gospel, salvation is at
El
risk.
riesgo más importante es la salvación, el mensaje de cómo recibe la salvación.
One of the first major proto-Gnostic teachers, his name was Cerinthus. That name was there?
Yeah.
Cerinthus.
Uno de los primeros que era como maestro de los gnósticos se llama Cerinto.
And so there's a tradition that says that John was going to a bathhouse. This is a very reliable tradition because it was by from Polycarp, but that John was going into the bathhouse and saw, when you go into the bathhouse in these time periods, you bathe nude. And so John was going to the bathhouse with his disciples, and someone alerted him that Cerinthus was either coming or already in the bathhouse.
Que hay una historia de tradición que habla que el apóstol Juan estaba en una casa de baño. Y tú sabes que en una casa de baño en esa época te vas desnudo a estar ahí en la casa de baño. Y alguien le ha dicho a apóstol Juan que ya viene Cerinto, que era el maestro de los gnósticos, y Juan
And this was in Ephesus, the main hub of Asia Minor.
estaba en la ciudad de Éfeso.
And so John takes off running from the bathhouse.
Entonces dice que Juan salió corriendo de la casa de baño.
And this is coming from Polycarp. And John says, "Let's fly, lest even the bathhouse fall down, because Cerinthus, the enemy of the truth, is within."
Vamos a volarnos de aquí porque viene Cerinto, y si Cerinto está dentro de la casa de baño, se cae todo por medio de la ira de Dios.
So today I want us to find out why these Gnostics were the main enemy of the truth of the gospel.
Entonces ahora vamos a hablar porque ellos eran el enemigo del evangelio por la iglesia primitiva en el segundo siglo.
So like I said, first of all, the Gnostics weren't, in the beginning, the Gnostics were not well organized.
Entonces en principio no estaba bien ordenado esa secta,
And then when they finally did organize, there was several different groups.
pero ya cuando estaban ordenados tenían diferentes grupos de los gnósticos.
However, all the Gnostic groups had several things in common, and one of those is they believed they held secret truth for salvation.
Todos los gnósticos se creían diferentes ideas exactamente igual, y una de esas ideas era que ellos tenían conocimiento secreto de la salvación.
And so they believed that this was a higher spiritual truth that was even more pure and more higher than what the bishops were teaching.
Entonces se creía que eso era una verdad que era más alto que los obispos estaban enseñando, que ellos tenían algo de secreto.
And at the core of what they believed was this dualistic idea. Who knows what dualism is? What is dualism?
En la idea más profunda se creía una cosa que
Yes.
es dualismo.
Traditionally, good versus evil.
Dualismo es como la tradición de el malo o el malvado contra del bueno.
And we see this within Christianity. There is a good versus evil happening, right?
Y podremos ver dentro del cristianismo que hay un malo y un bueno que está sucediendo en el mundo de hoy.
But they saw all of creation, all matter, as evil, and all spiritual as good.
Pero los gnósticos se creía que toda la materia, todo de la tierra estaba mala. Pero todo lo que estaba
All matter.
del
All
alma
physical
o del
matter.
espíritu era bueno.
Including your body. Your body is evil.
Incluso tu propio cuerpo era malo.
So they believed that the physical world, the universe, was created by a lesser demiurge God.
Entonces se creía que un Dios más pequeñito se creó el mundo.
Demiurge just means lesser God.
Demiurge es como un Dios pequeñito,
And that
de
this-
menor valor.
But before he created the physical world, there was a good God who created the spiritual realm.
Pero antes que se creó la tierra, había un Dios más mayor que se creó todo lo que era espiritual.
or the supernatural
El
realm.
reino espiritual o sobrenatural.
And so they believe that our, go ahead, Gerson,
I was just going to ask, where did this belief come from?
Alexandria.
But based on what?
No, it's just,
Based on-
a lot of philosophies.
Philosophies, Plato, Aristotle, Eastern religions, Zoroastrianism, all these ideas were coming together in Alexandria, and these Christians were putting these ideas together into a system.
But
Entonces-
I'm presuming to come on to it. There's much more. They believe Jesus
Uh,
was married, didn't they?
Well, yes, some of them, not all of them. We'll get into that.
Era una mezcla de filosofía y de religiones de oeste y este, una mezcla
Started
de
off on
esas
the right
ideas.
path, but we're just influenced by
Mhm.
all these other
Mhm.
things.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's very possible. So they believe that our spirits are good. And so our spirits are a divine spark of the divine good God. They are basically God.
Entonces se creía que el cuerpo era malo, pero el espíritu era bueno. Y el espíritu era como una chispa divina.
And so when this evil demiurge God created the physical realm, he created our bodies in order to trap these sparks of God inside this prison, this evil prison.
Entonces, cuando el Dios pequeñito, el Dios se creó toda la tierra, también se creó los cuerpos, pero los cuerpos era como una prisión atrapándose la chispa divina dentro de ti.
Now this is very contrary to what the Bible teaches in Genesis, that everything that God created was good.
Eso es contrario de lo que dice la Biblia, porque la Biblia enseña que Dios creó el mundo y que todo era bueno.
So they believe that this body was a tomb. They call it a tomb or a prison.
Ha dicho que el cuerpo era como una tumba de la chispa de tu espíritu.
Therefore, salvation was achieved through this special, secret, higher spiritual knowledge on how to escape our divine spark from this physical body back to the source, the pleroma, which is the fullness of God.
Entonces ellos se enseñaba que su forma de ser salvado era escaparse de la chispa, se escapa al remo espiritual y ya está en la pleroma,
And
la
so-
complexión de todo.
Yes, yes.
Sort of not the same, but
There are
same
hints.
nonsense.
There are hints of Gnosticism within Mormonism. There's also the New Age. The Gnosticism still exists today. Have you seen the Da Vinci Code? That's based on Gnosticism.
No
Have
sé
you
si han
seen?
visto el
you know,
código de Da Vinci,
the New Age
pero
movement
eso
based on
viene de los
Gnosticism.
gnósticos y también el movimiento de Nueva Era tiene muchas cosas que vienen hasta los gnósticos.
And so these bodies then, when we died, so the purpose was for them to learn the secret knowledge so that when they died, as their bodies are passing into the different levels of spirituality, then they would encounter these angels and demons. And they had to know the secret word, the secret code words, in order to pass through, kind of like a password, in order to get to finally the pleroma, the fullness of God.
Entonces se creía que tu cuerpo después que muere, que tú tienes que tener tu chispa paseándose por los ángeles y demonios y llegar a un momento
A lot.
que tú tuvieras la contraseña apropiada para entrar en el reino espiritual.
So then, in order to learn this message, these passwords, the secret knowledge, the Christ, which was the messenger of the pleroma, had to come down to earth in order to teach us the secret knowledge.
So it'd be bad if you had a bad memory.
So, sorry, just clarify. So Christ was not the Son of God.
He was a divine being of God. It's all kind of runs together. The
Ellos
fullness, the
se
pleroma
que
of good.
Cristo era más o menos como un guía divina que te guiaba hasta el punto de aprender la contraseña.
We'll get
y
to
el
that.
código
Remember,
para
there is
entrar
no
en
bound
el
Bible
reino
at this
espiritual.
time.
The Bible.
Mm.
Are you guys remembering this from Revelations?
No, but I
Yes,
read Código da Vinci
Yeah.
and actually it's demonios and
This is
then it's
basic
just
stuff.
the same.
The same thing,
It's the same
That's a
thing.
very good point.
There's no bound book. We have letters scattered out, but not one bound book yet.
And they've also had the influence of the Roman gods, the Greek
Yes,
gods.
everything.
So they've
Sounds like
had-
Roman
It
gods.
does almost sound mythical.
Everything, all this mystical stuff, all blended in together
Yeah.
into this.
Entonces eran ideas místicas
Ujú.
que
Da
estaban
Vinci
como
Code.
mezclado. Igual que el código de Da Vinci.
Yeah. Yep. And so his purpose then, Christ's purpose was to come down and to teach us these secret passwords and the secret knowledge in order to save us so that we can get back to the pleroma.
Entonces el propósito de Cristo era para bajarse a la tierra y enseñarnos los códigos importantes para que nosotros podremos irnos al reino espiritual.
And so they taught that Christ, I don't say Jesus Christ because I'll explain later, but the Christ came and taught this secret knowledge and secret passwords and secret codes to a core select group of disciples.
Entonces Cristo vino para enseñar ese conocimiento secreto a los discípulos importantes, un grupo pequeño.
Now, as far as Jesus Christ or Christ is concerned, they had two main ideas about him.
Entonces tenía dos ideas y uno era de Cristo y otro de Jesús.
So the first was that, while Jesus, the man, was crucified, the spiritual Christ was not harmed.
Una de esas ideas es que Jesús, que era representación, el nombre de Jesús, del cuerpo de Jesús, que aunque que él murió y fue crucificado, que el Cristo, que era representación del Espíritu, no fue dañado de ningún parte.
And so Christ took possession of the body, the man Jesus, at his baptism.
Entonces, durante el bautismo de Jesús, Cristo se tomó de posesión al cuerpo de Jesús, el Espíritu de Cristo.
So we see
vino.
that Christ and Jesus are two separate things.
Entonces,
Christ is a spiritual
Jesús-
messenger taking possession of the man Jesus.
Jesús, el cuerpo, y Cristo, el Espíritu, eran dos cosas distintas.
And the other main view about Jesus was that it was Jesus Christ, but he only appeared to be a man. He was made out of spiritual matter. It wasn't physical matter.
Entonces se creía que había Jesús como hombre, pero era apariencia de un cuerpo, no era un cuerpo real.
And so when Jesus Christ was crucified, it only appeared that he died because you can't kill a spirit.
Entonces se creía que cuando fue crucificado Jesús, que solamente era apariencia que fue crucificado.
But the main purpose of the Christ coming was to release us from the spiritual prison, this earthly body.
Pero el propósito principal, que porque bajó Cristo a la tierra, era para liberarnos del cuerpo que es como una prisión o una tumba de nuestro espíritu.
So, what would you think if you were a Gnostic and you had this special secret knowledge that the other Christians didn't have? What do you think this did within the church?
Entonces, si tú fueras gnóstico y tú pensarías que tuviera ese conocimiento secreto, ¿cómo soportaría con los demás gente de la iglesia?
Most of these guys were the intellectual and economic superiors.
Eran gente muy intelectuales y como superiores a otra gente.
And so you start to see this superiority, this elitist. So the Gnostics are the elite,
It's a massive challenge
Entonces,
to the authority that God was saying we should put on the board.
Yeah.
Deacons.
That's why we talked about that.
entonces se
This is the
creía
biggest
que
challenge.
We're going to come
ellos
back to that in a couple
eran
weeks.
como intelectuales élite, es como decir que ellos se creían que eran más que los demás, muy presumidos.
And so we had these second-class Christians, and then we had these elitist Gnostics
Que
with their secret
tuvieran
knowledge.
conocimiento secreto y los demás no lo tenían.
So it's a secret club for intellectuals, basically.
Entonces, un club secreto para los intelectuales.
But within this club, women played a very important role.
Pero dentro de ese club secreto, las mujeres tuvieron posiciones de poder.
Because gender doesn't matter in the spiritual realm. Gender is a part of a physical thing, and so gender is evil, and so it doesn't matter if you're a man or woman leader.
Entonces, en el realmo espiritual no importa si tú eres mujer ni hombre, porque es
Yeah.
de tu espíritu.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing that women held roles during this
Eso no
in this
era
group.
necesariamente malo que las mujeres tenían posiciones de liderazgo,
But it caused something very bad to happen.
pero algo sucedió que era de esto.
Because women started taking so much important roles in the Gnostic movement, the bishops started restricting what roles women could have in the church.
Entonces, porque las mujeres estaban tomando mucho de los roles o posiciones de liderazgo en los gnósticos, ya los obispos de la iglesia estaba como limitando a las mujeres dentro de la iglesia.
So before the rise of Gnosticism, women held important roles in the church.
Entonces, antes del ascenso del gnosticismo, las mujeres tenían posiciones o roles importantes en la iglesia.
Basically, every role was filled by a woman in the first century church.
Básicamente, todas las posiciones de la iglesia estaba una mujer en esa posición.
There were women pastors, teachers, evangelists, a missionary or apostles, etc. They
Había
filled every role.
mujeres, pastores, ancianos, evangelistas, maestros, de todo.
But because women held such power in this Gnostic group, slowly over time the bishops started restricting what roles the women could have within the church.
Entonces, porque los gnósticos tenían tantas mujeres que eran líderes en esa secta, ya empezaron la iglesia, el obispo diciendo que no podía tener posición en la iglesia.
So, for a time, the church was so divided that it appeared that Gnosticism was going to become victorious.
Entonces, por un tiempo, ellos pensaban la iglesia que el gnosticismo iba a vencer la iglesia.
It was that big of a movement that it almost took over as the primary truth of the church.
Que era un movimiento tan grande que casi venció a la iglesia y la forma de pensar de salvación.
Now, I want you to remember that up to this point in the 2nd century, there was only one church. Only one church.
Tienes que recordar que solo había una iglesia en el segundo siglo.
And so this was a major fight for the truth.
Y eso era como una batalla muy grande para la verdad.
And it never went away completely. And it still exists like in the New Age movement. It still exists
El
today.
gnosticismo no murió completamente. Todavía está en la nueva era y diferentes ideas en el día de hoy.
And I'll tell you, presumably the Jews must have thought this is a joke, because this is Jesus is a nonsense. This is, look what you've done now.
Well, some of the Jews were Gnostics. So I think Christianity influenced some of the Jews too. So people were all over the place, divided.
Que eso también influyó a los judíos. También había judíos que también eran gnósticos.
And so remember that in the 2nd century, there is no Catholic Church. There is no Orthodox Church. There is no Protestant Church. There's no denominations. It's just the church.
Tiene que recordar que en el segundo siglo no había católicos, ni ortodoxos, ni protestantes. Era solamente una iglesia.
So these attacks were happening within the one church.
Entonces esa batalla estaba dentro de la iglesia, la iglesia única.
And so in 1945, archaeologists discovered in Egypt a lot of these texts in what has become known as the Nag Hammadi Library.
Entonces en 1945 encontraron una biblioteca o diferentes libros, y no sé cómo es en español, pero es Nag Hammadi, que era los libros de los gnósticos.
And so this was a group, I own it at the house. It's a group of like a lot of different of the Gnostic writings of the time. And before that, we didn't have any of their writings. They were lost.
Antes de 1945 no tuvimos ninguno de sus libros o de sus escrituras ni de sus cartas, pero de encontrarse eso había mucho.
In fact, until 1945, the church thought that these Gnostic writings were lost forever.
Ellos pensaron que eso fue para siempre, perdido para siempre.
And so before this, all we had of the Gnostic writings was what was quoted by the heresiologists. These were the people who were fighting the Gnostics.
They fought the Gnostics. Entonces los heresiólogos eran la gente que estaban afrontándose los gnósticos, más luego escribiendo de esa idea o filosofía, y solo tuvimos la carta de ellos en esa época hasta 1945 cuando encontraron la Hammadi.
Because the word heretic and heresy and the word orthodox and orthodoxy comes from this battle with the Gnostics.
Entonces esa palabra heresía o heréticos viene de esa misma batalla con los gnósticos.
Can anybody name the most famous Gnostic text today?
¿Alguien puede decir cuál es el texto más famoso de los gnósticos? What was it,
The Gospel of Thomas.
El Evangelio de Tomás.
And so they all had these different names of the apostles. They weren't written by the apostles, but they gave them some kind of like spiritual clout to have this title of Gospel of Thomas or Gospel of Judas.
Que no fue escrito el Evangelio de Tomás, no fue escrito por Tomás, solamente era un gnóstico que lo ha escrito esa carta
And
y
we're
ha
still-
puesto el nombre.
We're still finding them. In 2006, we discovered the Gospel of Judas.
En 2006 encontraron el Evangelio de Judas.
And so the Gnostics saw themselves as the real Christians.
Y los gnósticos pensaron que ellos fueron los cristianos verdaderos.
Maybe there are people at the moment that think that they are Gnostic.
There are Gnostics today.
Sí,
Yeah.
sí, sí.
Mhm. So they saw themselves persecuted by the bishops. They saw themselves as the true Christians who were persecuted by these bishops.
Entonces ellos se creía que ellos eran los que estaban perseguidos por los obispos de la iglesia.
Before we go on with their theology, talking a little bit more about their theology again, who has questions over what I've talked about so far?
Antes de hablar un poquito más de
Anything?
la teología
comments or
de
anything?
ellos, tenía algunas
I just
preguntas.
think it's tragic that 100 years after the death of Jesus, man has already screwed this up. This is tragic. We've already messed it up.
Sí, que es muy
it's
triste
staggering, actually.
que siempre hay ese tipo de problemas para la salvación y la idea de la salvación.
It was a major crisis.
And I wonder if finding those books in 1945 was something good or not.
Well, we had several of their quotes already by the heresiologists, so we had them extensively quoted. We just didn't have them in their original form.
Entonces tuvieron sus ideas o su escritura, pero no tenía la forma original de las cartas.
And what's
las
interesting
cartas
about
originales.
the Nag Hammadi library is it's written in Coptic, which was the language of the lesser, not as intellectual group of class. And so by the time that, that shows us that over time Gnostics, even though it started out as an elitist group, it trickled all the way down to the commoner class.
Que muchas de esas cartas fueron escritas en cóptico, ese idioma de Egipto, pero en esa época era de la gente pobre. Entonces empezaron las ideas con la gente intelectuales, pero llegaba a los más pobres las ideas.
Because all the original Gnostic writings were written in Greek.
Porque los tradicionales fue escrito en griego.
So Gnosticism quickly became the greatest enemy to the truth inside Christianity.
Entonces era el peligro más grande de cristianismo.
And like I said, this is where the word orthodox is born. What does orthodox mean?
Entonces empieza la palabra ortodoxo aquí. ¿Qué significa ortodoxo?
Right?
Es el correcto.
Right belief.
la
right belief.
correcta forma de creer.
And heresy means error, to be in error.
Y herejía significa estar equivocado.
But the main thing that the Gnostics believe is that this physical world is incurable.
Entonces se creía, una de sus principales más importantes es que esa tierra física es incurable, que no es incurable, es corruptado completamente.
And so the remedy is to just escape this physical realm.
Entonces la solución de
Well, some
eso
of them
es que
did.
tiene que escaparse de tu forma, tu cuerpo y todo lo que es física.
So there were many types of Gnostics, but they all shared 5 common doctrines that we're
Había
going to talk
muchos
about.
diferentes tipos de gnósticos, pero todo tenía esas 5 doctrinas.
So they all believed in one good creator God who did not create, one good God who did not create the creation,
Todos se
but created the
creían,
spiritual realm.
todos se creían en un Dios bueno, que era el mayor, que se creía el reino espiritual.
And they all believed that this demiurge, lesser, evil God created the physical realm.
Pero ese Dios que era malo y más pequeño, el demi Dios, que él creó el reino físico.
And they all believe that the human spirit is a divine drop or a divine spark of this God, this good God that's entrapped in these physical bodies.
Entonces se creía que todos nosotros tenemos esa chispa divina que está atrapado dentro de nuestro cuerpo.
These prisons or these tombs that we have to escape from.
Que el cuerpo como una prisión o una tumba que tenemos que escaparse de.
And so they also believe that the sin of the fall that we see in the Bible in the fall into matter are 2 identical events.
The fall of man and the fall of matter,
Mm-hmm.
que are 2 separate things.
Same thing. Same thing.
Que la caída del hombre y la caída de materia o del mundo es igual, la caída.
So they see the fall of man being taught in Scripture as just that's when those divine sparks got imprisoned by the evil God.
Entonces, cuando la caída de Adán y Eva se pasó, eso es cuando el cuerpo fue como en prisión y todas las chispas divinas se fueron atrapados.
And so as long as we're trapped in these evil bodies, we will not be able to escape sin completely. We will always be subject to sin.
Entonces, hasta que estamos en ese cuerpo malo, vamos a tener esa tentación de pecado.
The 4th thing they all agreed on was that salvation comes through escaping this physical body and finding our way back to the pleroma.
Y también creía que la salvación vino para escaparse del cuerpo y llegar al reino espiritual.
And only those who pass it back through all the levels, however many levels, each group taught different number of levels, will make it back to the pleroma.
Y solo la gente que llegará a la pleroma es como el último nivel que se creía diferentes niveles. Que solo la gente que se pasaba por todos los niveles con el conocimiento secreto llegará a su pleroma.
And so the rest will be kind of lodged out here in one of these dimensions.
Entonces la resta de la gente estuvieran como perdidos en diferentes niveles.
And then the 5th is the belief about Jesus Christ, which is that either he took possession of Jesus' body or that he only appeared to be human but was a spiritual matter, not physical matter.
Entonces su última creencia era uno de las dos cosas, que era solamente una posesión del cuerpo de Jesús, entonces no fue crucificado, o también que fue crucificado pero en apariencia, no realmente.
And so the main group of Gnostics that kind of took a hold of this teaching, well, there were 2 main groups, but one of the main groups is called Gnosticism, because it comes from the Greek word dokeia, which means to seem or to appear, that Jesus only appeared to be a physical body, but he was a spiritual matter.
Entonces uno de los grupos de los gnósticos se llamaba
What's that?
Where is hell in all of this? Is there a hell?
As I think some groups taught in a hell, and some groups just taught that you get lost in some of these levels.
Que había algunos grupos que pensaron que había infierno, pero muchos de ellos pensaban que se pierde en uno de los niveles.
If you know the secrets.
If you know the secret way, then you can make it
You're on the
back.
way.
Yes.
But if you don't know the secret,
But the
there's nothing
levels-
bad going to happen to you.
Or
You
might-
just get-
you
you're
know,
just
might
lost.
know a little bit of the
In
secret.
whatever
You're just
level.
lost in these.
What did Gnosticism mean?
Because you've been saying they're all.
To seem.
They all have different names.
Yeah, talking
different-
about.
Yeah, like Valentinius,
Okay,
Gnosticism,
to appear.
Docetism. So
They're all sitting in the, for lack of a better term. They're all sitting in the same church.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Yeah.
someone over there, and it's
Yeah.
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it was. And so they had all these different Irenaeus, which was the protege of Polycarp, which was the protege of John. Irenaeus is the one who really finally defeated them in the end, and he battled 20 different varieties of Gnostics.
Entonces
20
había
different
primero
varieties.
Juan que estaba afrontándose y Policarpo y en el final Ireneo que era lo que en el final prevaleció sobre esa forma de pensar.
And so this form of Jesus from the Docetism is a pretender Jesus because he only pretends to be human, but he's not really human.
Entonces ese grupo entre la secta de los gnósticos, docetismo, doqueo significa la apariencia de. Entonces ellos se creía que era la apariencia de Jesús que fue crucificado.
We're going to study Irenaeus later, but there were over 20 that he studied. And a lot of our, until we found the Nag Hammadi library, a lot of our quotes from the Gnostic texts came from Irenaeus, from Justin Martyr, the apologist, and these guys.
Entonces, muchas de las ideas de los gnósticos vienen por Ireneo o los demás de la iglesia que estaba afrontándose esa filosofía.
It may even be these Gnostic groups that turned Ignatius of Antioch over to the Roman authorities.
Puede ser que Ignacio, lo que estudiamos la semana pasada, que fue matado por su fe, que probablemente eran gnósticos que le ha dado su nombre.
Their main differences were how they explained how they got back to the pleroma. So there was different passwords or different keywords or differences in that.
Entonces, porque había como 20 variedades de Ireneo que estaba afrontándose, pero mucho de su forma de pensar estaba en desacuerdo de las contraseñas, de los niveles, los códigos.
And so as time progressed, as Gnosticism advanced, their systems got more and more elaborate and more, because you got to remember, we got to be the elite. We got to be the elitists, so they became so elaborate over time.
It's like Dungeons & Dragons or something, those games that people play. Que después de tiempo era como jugando un juego, porque fue como más profundo todos los códigos y las puertas y las contraseñas que tenía que tener para llegar a pre-Roma, el último nivel.
The last thing I want to talk about, because everything else on here we've already discussed through our conversation, is the application then of Gnosticism. How did that play out in their lives?
Entonces, la aplicación de Gnosticismo, ¿cómo era la aplicación en su vida?
If our bodies are prisons of evil physical matter, then how do we live that faith out?
Entonces, si se creía que el cuerpo era como una presión y era muy malo, ¿cómo viviría esa persona?
There were two main applications to this. The first is that the first group believed that we must control our passions, we must control this prison, we must have power over it. So we must suppress sin and sinful nature.
Entonces hay dos pensamientos resultados de esa. La primera es la aplicación que tú crees que tu cuerpo es malo, entonces tienes que oprimir tu cuerpo y todas las ideas o tentaciones de tu cuerpo. Y el segundo.
And so, this came from the Stoicism, because the Stoics believed that passions were bad, basically uncontrolled emotions, and so uncontrolled desires. So to suppress those. So Stoicism really influenced this form of Gnosticism.
Estoicos, la gente que se creía que pasión era muy malo y solamente los pensamientos era lo mejor, que ellos, esa idea viene de ellos, tiene que oprimir todas tus pasiones.
And the other group believed that since our spirit was a good divine spark of God and trapped in an evil body, we're not responsible for what the evil body does, and so we should just let the body do whatever the body wants to do.
Entonces, el otro lado era el opuesto. Ellos creían
you hate yourself, or you hate yourself and you don't want to do anything, Or you just think it doesn't matter what?
So these guys were influenced by the Epicureans.
Entonces el otro lado era el opuesto, que porque el cuerpo es malo, tú puedes hacer lo que quieres en tu cuerpo porque no importa, solo importa la chispa divina que está dentro.
And so these were influenced by the Epicureans because they were like, eat Mary for tomorrow we die, right?
Ellos estaban
Do
haciendo
whatever
lo que
sinful thing
quería,
your body wants to do because it's
teniendo
only natural.
relaciones con cualquier persona, comiendo cualquier cosa, haciendo todo lo que podría hacer en esa vida.
And so one of these groups were ascetic. They were almost like monk-like. They were like, we got to suppress the body. We got to take control over it. And the other group was libertines. They were the opposite. Just let your body do what it's going to do natural because you're not responsible for your body because you're a divine spark entrapped inside of it.
Greeks were like that.
Ajá.
Greeks were.
Entonces un grupo era ascético como monjos que ellos estaban oprimiendo todas sus pasiones y el otro grupo era gente muy libre que estaba haciendo lo que quería.
So these were the two divergent applications that Gnosticism took. And you can see why it took these two. There's no middle ground. It's either you control it or you don't.
Es fácil ver cómo llegaba a ese punto de controlarlo o no controlarlo.
And they did. These libertine groups pretty much did every evil thing within their groups that you can imagine.
Esa gente, como tú has dicho, griego, Roma, toda la gente como así, hicieron todas las cosas malas en su cuerpo que tú podrías imaginar.
So this is where we're going to stop today, and we'll do our group questions all together since there's not a lot of us today. But next week we're going to talk about two more groups that the church was facing, because this wasn't all that the church was facing. There's more.
Entonces, eso era uno de las sectas más grandes y más grave y peligroso, pero la semana que viene vamos a estudiar dos más sectas que también era peligroso.
And then in 2 weeks we're going to start seeing how the church responded to these heresies within the church.
En algunas semanas vamos a ver cómo la iglesia primitiva han respondido a esas sectas.
So let's just do these group questions together. If Gnosticism were true, that Jesus only appeared to have a human body but did not, what would that mean for our salvation?
We did this
Yeah.
in Spanish too.
Yeah.
Okay. Si el docecismo, ese grupo, esa secta de gnósticos era verdadero, y Jesús solamente tenía apariencia de un cuerpo humano, ¿qué significaría eso para nuestra salvación?
So, this Docetism.
Mm-hmm.
So, did they believe that the Christ being
Mm-hmm.
came into Jesus' body?
No. They believe
They just believe
that he was born of Mary as a
Uh-huh.
spiritual matter. He only appeared to have a physical body, but it was really just a spiritual
So he
body.
kind of like walked around like a ghost. Like
Yeah.
Yes. Basically a
Different
ghost that you could
dimensions.
touch and feel, and
Uh-huh.
it just appeared to be physical.
So his body didn't really get crucified, so how would that impact us?
Nothing. He didn't die for our sins.
Right. The death,
In which
And he was
case,
resurrected.
The
he was
death-
resurrected and that's that.
yes, death, resurrection mean nothing, right? So death and resurrection of Jesus mean absolutely nothing to the Gnostics.
And then the problem with that for us is that, the Old Testament teaches that the Lamb of God had to die to take away the sins of the world. And so if there was no sacrifice, then we wouldn't have atonement.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to translate that?
Do we have to do everything in
Oh,
Spanish?
no, I guess we can stop the Spanish.
Okay.
Dug yourself
You can
a
just say
hole,
the
Chris.
questions in Spanish.
Okay.
Second question is, what would happen to Christianity if the Gnostics were victorious?
¿Qué pasaría al cristianismo o qué hubiera pasado a los cristianismos si los gnósticos fueron victoriosos?
Well, by today we'd have to do the most ridiculous things to get the passwords.
We'd still all be like trying to look for codes and
That will disappear.
Yeah.
It will disappear because it will end up only
It will
for
end
an
up,
elite
yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
And the evangelio goes for everyone.
It would
Yeah.
destroy
The
it.
gospel
You're right, it would have destroyed
would only
Christianity.
be
We'd
for
have
few
said we can't be
people.
bothered with it.
And we would have, and you know, the church would have made it more elaborate over time because it was an elitist. So it would become even harder passwords, even
Yeah,
harder.
but we're talking about though, what if it had won?
Right,
If it had won, we wouldn't be here, right?
right. We would not
the
be
second
here.
coming would have already
We
happened.
became Rubik's
Yeah.
Cubes. We were trying to find codes.
Right.
We were looking for the
Yeah,
codes.
the codes.
We might be Jewish.
Yes, really.
How
I can see you with a yarmulke.
how would you argue against Gnosticism without a bound Bible?
Si no tuviera la Biblia, ¿cómo podría discutir contra del gnosticismo?
Would be very difficult
Very
because
difficult.
this is the instruction book for us. Then if we don't have this, how are we going to do it?
Hmm.
Now, I'm going to say this, and this, you know, I'm all about logic.
Hmm.
I'm like, explain this to me. What's your foundation for
Yeah,
this? Please.
It doesn't
You
make
don't have
sense.
to-
I think
No way.
you're right, Justin. You say that is stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
That-
sense.
That's one of the things that Irenaeus said.
It just doesn't make sense. You just said it doesn't make sense.
Well, we'll talk about it more. He didn't exactly say
We
that.
went to a Mormon church where they took us
And
into
some
a
people
room
will
and they
believe,
talked about the
some people
planets.
will
I said,
believe.
no.
Especially the ignorance. The
No.
people are ignorant and they have, you know, I think that there are some people that are not ignorant, it's just that they don't have enough knowledge, right?
They
Mhm.
would father behind people.
And if somebody highest tell him that's true and you have to believe, why? Because that's what God said, and they will say, okay, yes. Because that happened in Spain 50
Mhm.
years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
And people were Christians. Why? Because they just have to believe.
Hmm.
My
Yeah.
mom doesn't know the Bible.
But
What about-
logically, it's just nonsense. You
What
just-
about apostolic succession? Could you use that argument against the Gnostics?
What is
Well,
that again?
I mean, you'd have to have.
The bishops being appointed by the apostles, and
I mean, to an extent, I guess. But I'm
how
sure
would you argue against that? Using apostolic succession.
Well, you'd have texts, right?
Uh huh.
At each
I
one of
presume
these
they had
churches.
Revelation, the John's notes, wouldn't they?
Mhm.
You know?
Because they
Well, you
didn't
also
have
have the
texts
teaching of
by
the apostles that taught their disciples, and they taught their disciples.
And so, what was the key argument of the Gnostics? That they were taught this secret knowledge by a
Something
key
secret.
group of disciples of Jesus.
And so then you
So
say,
who
well, who
were
were
they?
the
They
key
were
group of
apostles.
disciples? Yeah.
And so, like, for example, John's, there were other disciples, but John, for example, Polycarp's like, this is nonsense. I am John's protege.
Yeah.
If there was some secret knowledge,
Uh-huh.
I would know about it. And Irenaeus said the same thing. You know, if Polycarp knew some secret knowledge, he would have told me, because I'm his protege. And you guys don't have no secret knowledge, because I go directly to the source of John.
And
Oh,
one thing we're missing is, of course, the power of prayer, because you're going to
Mhm.
talk to God. And
Right.
so if you talk to God,
No, you need a password to talk to God.
no, but that's the point, because if you have a relationship with God and you're talking to God, you say this is nonsense.
Do you
I'm
s-
outraged by
Yeah,
it.
because the disciples were saying, we walked with Jesus.
Right.
We know he was
Yeah.
a real person because we touched him and we ate with him and we.
So that Jesus sweating blood to them.
It only
It didn't
appeared.
matter, it didn't matter.
It only appeared that he did that.
The whole thing's a nonsense.
Jesus was a pretender. So,
Oh,
so the next, what elements of Gnosticism still exist today?
¿Qué elemento de gnosticismo existe en el día de hoy
I see
todavía?
a lot of elitism. Opus Dei, Orthodox Jews,
Mm-hmm.
just even in our Church of England, there's a lot of elitism still.
Secret groups, secret.
Where they think they're better.
The
They think they're
Masonic.
better.
Yes,
The Masonic,
Masons,
the Masons.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
And the Mormons.
The Mormons, the Illuminatis.
These
Yeah.
groups think they're better. So there's a lot of elitism.
Christian Science.
Yeah. Scientology. Scientology is close to this problem.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Direct descendant. Yeah.
Really.
There's something though that I think the temptation has always been the secret knowledge. Like you think,
Oh, I have.
I can like find out something
my
other
intelligence.
people don't
My
know
intelligence.
about. You know, I'm special or
It's Scientology.
Yeah.
So I gave you guys a homework assignment to read 1 John again in the light of all this.
Entonces, para tus deberes, debes de leer la carta de el primero de Juan para que tú puedas estudiar el primero de Juan que es pequeñito, pensando en los gnósticos.
And so you can read 1 John in 20 minutes or less. So just read it and think about John is battling the Gnostics and think, what is John actually saying? And pay attention to things of how often John uses knowledge. Or to know, the verb to know.
Habla Juan mucho de conocimiento o conocer y tú puedes ver por medio de eso que está afrontándose a los gnósticos.
And what is John saying we must know? What kind of knowledge must we know to be saved?
Entonces Juan dice mucho, tienen que conocer esto para ser salvo. ¿Y qué es lo que tenemos que conocer?
And who does John say is the Antichrist?
¿Y quién dice que es el anticristo?
So just keep those things in mind. Keep Gnosticism in your mind as you read 1 John. And your mind is just going to blow up when you read 1 John. I'm telling you, it's just going to blow up.
Entonces
Complete correlation between what's
después de
going on.
leer el
Right.
primero de Juan es como una bomba de cerebro porque después de ver todo de lo que creían los gnósticos.
It just seems so extraordinary that the Garden of Eden and the Tree of Knowledge, and then we've got this group causing such destruction,
False knowledge.
false knowledge, and of course that's always going to be God, the enemy, isn't it? It's always going to
The
be
lie.
It's got Satan around.
The lie. The
Satan
lie.
around.
The liar. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments before we finish?
Oh, one question. Heretics, that meant what? The
To
heresy?
be an error.
To be in error.
And orthodox means right belief.
Right belief.
So the word orthodoxy means to have right belief.